Right, cool. So how are you, Danny? Are you well?
Yeah, not bad. Thank you very much.
What
Not
have you been
bad.
up to since we last spoke?
Sleeping. No, no. What
What,
have I been up
shrimping?
to? No, sleeping. No, I haven't. I've been. What have I been doing? Mostly sort of scanning photographs at the moment. That's quite a big thing. And writing. I'm trying to write a book or two books. One is they're long stories, but one's on a baby shambles, Pete Doherty, Kate Moss, and baby shambles book, which I've started, and one on a kind of coffee table book, really, sort of showing some of the photographs where the stories are pretty mad behind them. So people see the photographs and then understanding the story, what happened is. I find it interesting, so hopefully people will. When that turns into a book. So,
How have you found the transition from putting it from, sort of telling me the story or telling your mates and friends and people who follow you the story to actually putting it into text? Has it been a different sort of experience for you?
well, yeah, because I'm an illiterate buffoon. So I've had a lot.
That's not what I was meaning.
Yeah. Well, I've had a lot of help from Ali Rosenberg, who's a genius when it comes to many things, and he's part of the family, and he's been transcribing it for me. He's great because I left school at 15 and a half and fell into the music industry and didn't know how to spell dog. So I've taught myself since then. I know how to spell dog now, but no, I don't. But he's helped a lot. So as far as writing goes, I do know how to write, I suppose, now. A little bit, so yeah, I'm banging it together, but I do need a bit of overseeing and slapping around the head when But for my,
I think we all do. When I write stuff, I have to have it proofread by my good lady, and she looks after me and normally rewords it. I think one of the issues with writing is some people are so articulate with words and brilliant but that could almost take it away from yourself. The way you speak, the way you are. It's got to be a balance, hasn't it?
Yeah, that's the beauty of Ali, because he knows how I speak. He knows me well enough, and I write it, speak it, write it down. Ali he corrects my grammar, puts a comma where I've left a false, tells me you can't use that word. It's not English. It's Cockney or whatever.
Part of your accent.
So that's what I've been doing. I've been doing a bit of writing, pulling pictures together, going through lots of old photographs and new stuff as well. Stuff that I've done recently. Like bits that I've been doing, and generally, as a lot of the world has during the strange 2020, I have been catching up on things. Like that.
Yeah.
So it's it's been good.
Anything in the pipeline? Has the music industry started to recover a little bit in gigs?
Well, weirdly, I didn't even know this happened, but I wish I had. But I just got a message that Squeeze, they were mates of mine, the band Squeeze, they performed in Henley, which is down round the corner from me. Yes, at the weekend. I thought, bloody hell, I wish I'd known.
They're not that good a mates to never bothered to tell you.
Well, probably just said, don't tell Danny, for God's sake. But so yeah, a few bands and a few artists are getting back and they're doing socially distanced gigs, which is lovely. So it's nice that the world is, coming back to a little bit of normality, which, we all need a bit of normality.
Yeah.
But I didn't go down there. I wasn't invited.
Was it an open air gig then or something like that? Or?
It was open air from what I saw, open air. It was well spaced out. So, it's fantastic. So,
it'd be almost like playing a prom. We have proms upstate at my homes, and everybody turns up with candelabras and dining tables and sits outside, hopefully, if the weather's nice enough, but they'll all sit different. So it'd be a funny environment at a gig now, because instead of it all being the hustle bustle at the front and
but I've done a few gigs like that. I mean, you just said that, like about some of the sort of things in the park. I did one with Van Morrison, which was I don't know how long ago it was, whenever it was, and it was at Hampton Court Palace, and that was one where everyone sat in, outside with picnics in the summer's evening, and then they went into this lovely courtyard, and it was in the courtyard at Hampton Court Palace.
I've got a pic. I think I might be right. This is Van Morrison, isn't it?
That's it. That was actually at that gig. Well, let me tell you. Well, before that disappears, I just want to tell you that first of all, I wanted to get every I don't know, so often a green light flashed across him. He was wearing a grey suit, and
So want a green suit then?
It's not a green suit. If you look at his collar, it's grey. But it was that instant, a couple of times, where I saw the green light flying across, and I thought, I've got to get that shot. And I was shooting that on a 400mm 2.8 lens, and I wasn't far away from him, but he hated me because, in fact, if by chance my mate John Altman is watching this tonight, who he logged in at our last one. John Altman's one of the world's greatest music composers, producers, writers, movies. He's done James Bond films, Titanic. He produced George Michael. He's produced. He was 11 years Van Morrison's musical director. John was, and so John will appreciate this because I was at the Hampton Court Palace waiting to get that shot. So I was crouched down in the crowd who had been having their little picnics around the palace that night. It was a beautiful summer's evening, but because I was crouched down and trying to be unobtrusive, and I was just waiting and waiting and waiting, like a sniper, like looking through that, waiting for that green light. And I got it. But as I got the shot, I realised that I had been displaying my rear end as a builder's bum to the crowd behind me. So I very gently thought, oh, my trousers were half down my ankle. So I very carefully sort of like just turned round. And as I turned round, he finished the song. And the applause had stopped for a second. And I turned round and the crowd behind me started laughing. And they applauded me because I pulled my trousers up. Van Morrison, was not best pleased, looked at me. And if he could have thrown a knife at me, he would have done. He looked at me and threw daggers at me. It was hilarious. And then everybody else laughed again. And everyone was turning round, looking at what he's looking at. And everyone was looking at me. And I thought, God, bloody hell, all I wanted to do was get the shot. I mean, I did have my bum in the air, but it was just, to me, I wanted that shot with that green light. But it did cause a major stir in between the two songs.
I'll tell you what, just
quite an intimate moment.
Just technically, for a green light, you've actually done I mean, you're a great photographer, but there's no colour cast on his skin or anything like that. And I would have said that was a green suit because he's got a white shirt on. There's no cast on it.
It was above, and I noticed it was coming down. And I mean, I haven't touched it, Photoshop-wise. That's not been fiddled with. That is what it is. But I just wanted that. I mean, I've got loads of other shots from that gig, and the grey suit is very bland, very boring. Yeah. But I really, really was looking. When you're doing music stuff, the lights are moving pretty quick.
Yeah.
And, more often than not, unless you go to a small gig where the lights are static, on proper, big gigs, the lights are moving around a lot. So you can, if you keep your eyes and your head open, you can see things and think, hang on a minute, that was, I mean, it happened with Eric Clapton at, where were we? The Albert Hall, 2003. All of a sudden, he had some digital lights behind him that when I was the only one shooting that, it was at the Teenage Cancer Trust at the Albert Hall. And I noticed that the digital lights behind him, a yellow light was being controlled, and it flopped. It was moving around at that sort of speed. It was flying around, the light was, but it went just behind him. And I managed to get myself between him and the light, and it just gave a beautiful yellow blanket across the back of him. So, and if anyone looks at the pictures, they'll think, oh, there was a yellow light over the back. Well, it wasn't. It hit him and it caused a big yellow. Yeah. And then they put a pink one up in the end. And so I had to move. I had to sort of fly to my left a bit. And now I'm older and fat. It's harder to move around so much. But 2003, I was, super fit. But,
so do you study the lights at gigs quite a lot then to see? You're obviously looking for the shot all the time and the lighting and how it falls on people and the silhouettes and.
When you're doing live music, and then as anybody who's maybe watching this has done, on one hand it's really easy, and on the other hand it's quite complicated. But if you want to get the shots that are, where you want to be, standout shots, you have to think. You can't just go into a gig and go, oh yeah, I'm going to photograph this, blah blah. You've got to think. You've got, like with all photography, you have to think. And if you're thinking and you're looking, when you see something that's going, I mean, this is not an example of lighting, but it's an example of thinking and looking. It was 2008. I was with, I don't think we got the picture, to be honest with you, but I went to Glastonbury with Amy Winehouse, and Jay-Z was headlining that night. And Jay-Z went on stage, and it's a bit of a hoo-ha because he'd been slagged off by Noel Gallagher because he said that Jay-Z should not be performing at at Glastonbury. It's a rock and roll event, and Jay-Z thought it was funny. He walked on stage, didn't answer Noel Gallagher back in the press. He just walked on stage with a white Fender Stratocaster and went straight into an Oasis song playing Wonderwall, which everyone went mad, you know, like 500 million people behind going crazy because Jay-Z's come out not rapping, playing a Fender, playing an Oasis song. But up to my right, I was watching, I was on stage at the front of the stage photographing all this with a Fender, and it was you know, great and an iconic moment, Jay-Z playing a white Fender which he never plays. But over to my right at the I'm pointing to the left on the screen, aren't I? But
I know they are a bit back to front. It takes a bit of getting used to, doesn't it?
It was over to my right, which is over there. There was a tiny balcony at the back of the side of the stage, and I kept looking up there, and I could see Beyonce. I thought, Beyonce. Then I saw Amy Winehouse. Then I saw Jack White from the White Stripes, and a few others. And I thought, right, I need a shot of them, and they were dancing around because Beyonce's married to Jay-Z. But I got it in the bag. I got the shots of them. I happened to carry a flash gun in my belt, which is, you know, you don't use as a live photographer. You never do. But you never know when you're
not in the front of your trousers like your Hasselblad loose.
It wasn't down my underpants, no. Although I've had some strange things down my underpants, I hasten to add, but we won't go into that. But so yeah. I had a flash gun, and I got the shots of Beyonce, Amy Winehouse, Jack White, and a few, I can't remember who else was up there, a few other artists. So they were up there watching the main act of the night on the big stage last night at Glastonbury. But what I needed was Jay-Z in it as well. So from a technical point of view, you're not going to get Jay-Z, who's here in front of me, in focus with them, right? So you've got to be awake. So I needed them in focus and a blurred Jay-Z, because we all know it's Jay-Z prancing around in front of me. So that shot, I got Beyonce sort of screaming, her husband's on stage, you know, supporting him with Amy Winehouse and everybody else up there. And I got Jay, and that was a double page in the Telegraph magazine, I think it was, the following week. But all I mean is you've just got to be aware of what's going on, and you know, just to have your wits about you. I mean, I don't mean to sound a bit sort of disparaging. Most music photographers are great and they're lovely, but there are some that don't think, and you know that because I watch them. You think, you know, and then when you see the pictures afterwards, you know they've just done their job and they've gone home.
Yeah. And
you know, I didn't get into this to just be one of the runners in the pack. I wanted to be one that people go, he's good, or they're good, or like we all do, whatever you shoot weddings, or whether you shoot still life, or whether you shoot anything, there's nothing nicer than people going, oh, I love that picture. It gives us all a buzz as a photographer. Yeah. It must do. If you're not bothered about that, then you're in the wrong game.
I think this is the difference between when photographers lose the love of what they fell in love with originally, because we all fell in love with photography because it's creative and we're producing what we love to produce. I've spoken to lots of photographers who have then, it's got very, very commercial for them, and they've fallen out of love with photography because they're not shooting for themselves anymore with that passion. Well, they're actually shooting for a client. I think it's a very easy trap for photographers to fall into. I
totally get that. Totally understand, because
I often mention to people, look, give yourself a focus that's away from what you normally do, because it'll give you your passion back. You know, try and go somewhere else.
Yeah, because, well, listen, that's another thing. If you're fortunate enough to have a client, that means you're getting paid. So look after it, because there's lots of photographers out there who don't make a living. And, you know, to make money in photography, you have to be a little bit, you have to be a little bit pliable in your mind and in the way you operate. You've got to, you know, so if you've got a client and you're doing still life stuff and they're paying you to do it, or you're doing product shots for a small company that want their hardware store to go on whatever, do a great job and put your head into it and make it right, because they're paying you. Yeah. But with music, it was kind of the other way around for me. I got into it and I haven't lost that passion to make sure I've still got the passion, and I've still got the pride wanting pictures to be great. I say great. I mean, this is me saying, I hope they are, but I mean, but anyway, I still go into it wanting to take the great shots. There's one shot that, as an example, which I think, funnily enough, I'm not sure if I sent it over to you, but I have got it as I could put it up as a background if you want it. It's actually, it's actually the Strokes. Oh, sorry, not the Strokes. It's
Stripes?
No, not the Stripes. It's oh God, what are they called?
Put the picture up behind you and somebody will tell us.
Hang on, I'll tell you. The Hives. Sorry, it's the Hives.
Okay.
Going mad now. It's me medication, actually. Truthfully.
Is that what they blame it on?
It's all legal as well, my medication.
Which is unusual for the music industry, I should think.
I'm on legal medication. Honestly, I've got a certificate. So it's the Hives, and they were. I photographed them, and I knew that the lead singer. I'd just done a bit of homework because that's another thing. Look into it. You know.
I think I know which picture it is.
Well,
is it the one where he's jumping with his legs?
Exactly, he's jumping.
I know the picture.
I'll show you it. Let me get it up here and just show you.
I don't think I've got it actually.
The other photographer. Sorry, say again.
I don't think I've got that picture here, but I do. Right, I know which picture you mean.
Here today, but let me find it. But when I was at this gig, all the other music photographers that were there ran over to a bass guitarist who was on our right, who went flying forward to sort of like poke his tongue out at the crowd. And I watched Pelle Lundqvist, the lead singer. I thought he's going to jump in it. I didn't move. I'm the only one who stood still. And I thought, I mean, anyone could have stood where I was. But I was, and also when you're at that music gig, don't stand with the camera around your neck. Look through that lens because you get a nanosecond to pull the trigger. You know, let me just get out of the way here. If I can just get out, where shall I go? I'll go that way. Right, hang on. So you can see he jumped with the name behind the Hives, and everybody else ran to they ran that way. Sorry, that way. Right. They ran that way where the bass guitars were. And I thought, well, you know, like, what are you doing? You know, and from what I remember, no one else got the shot. And that's the shot. That's the one that was, I mean, at the time, I remember it being used in pretty much all the broadsheets used it in England the next day. I mean, I got it out, syndicated it. I got it out.
It's a proper rock and roll jump, isn't it, as well? It's almost pretty athletic.
Yeah, but my point, let me get rid of that now. My point is that if you don't pay attention, what is the point? You know, like, you know, let me just get that. Oh, all right, it's gone now. So, sorry, so it's about just keeping your eyes open and thinking. You know, thinking and being ready, and also having that camera up. You know, I'm at a gig. I'm looking at everything through my lens. I'm not going, oh, what's happening there? By the time you've gone like that, it's gone. You know.
What sort of? How do you focus? I mean, just technically. I mean, what do you have? You shoot with Nikons, don't you? A Nikon, you know, prime Nikon shooter, and so. What sort of focusing mode would you use in a gig? Because it's obviously really tricky with light. Or do you just manually focus? Or say again?
Focus, haven't you? I forgot. No, what do I use? Well, when I started, it was manual. You know, I've still got all my Nikon F2s and F2Ss and F2SAs. Everything was manual. Exposure, everything was manual. So you learn to focus. So quite often I'm still manually focusing. You know, old habits die hard. But I occasionally go on autofocus and choose with the Nikons. It's probably the same with other cameras as well, because never use other ones. But you know, we've got little focus dots and things we can use with Nikons, and I'm just flying around, and I've usually got it focused on whoever I'm shooting on their eye. You know, so that's what I want.
So you actually move it around with your thumb on a little jockey wheel on that?
You're there on your thumb all the way, so you can move it around quick enough.
There's so many focusing modes on cameras now, isn't there?
There are, but when you're doing music, because I'm shooting in live music, you've got. I don't want to get too boringly technical. I'm not actually a technical photographer. Pretty shit, really, but because you're shooting on such a narrow depth of field, you know, because the lighting is. I mean, all my lenses are 2.8 lenses. Everything's got to be minimum of that. Which is a fast lens for those that are not fast-ish lens for those that are not into photography. But that gives you a very narrow depth of field. So if you're not careful, you're going to get a great shot, go back and look at it, and the microphone is dead sharp and their face is...
Yeah.
That's no good. No, so I'm absolutely, you know, fastidious about focusing on their eyes because with a narrow depth of field, if someone's got a big hooter, you can get the end of their nose in focus and their eyes, you know, it doesn't look good. So it's all important. And also the other thing is, I rarely shoot from right in front of someone. And that's another thing at music gigs. All photographers tend to gather in the middle. And I'd be, waiting in the wing at the side of the pit somewhere up there, because you want to be slightly side on, because the last thing you want is, somebody standing there going, yeah, they've got a microphone. What sort of shot is that? It's rubbish. You want to be, slightly side, you want to be, side on. You've got them with the mic, and then they, that's what you need. So focusing on the eye, to me, is pretty...
Guitar necks, guitar heads, microphones, mic stands, always stick in people's faces, don't they? And I've not really shot a lot of music.
Gibson, then get the guitar in focus, or Shure microphones, which I've, all that stuff you do. But,
let's talk about, I know you've got a cool story about this image here. I'm going to share this one of Liam Gallagher. Can you see that? This is...
Yeah, we have spoken. Right. Okay, so Liam, lovely chap, very talented, lovely fellow. We were backstage at the Albert Hall, and that night you can see on the stage, on the dressing room doors, Richard Ashcroft was headlining at the Albert Hall, who was a mate of his. So we arrived there very early, and I was the official photographer for Teenage Cancer Trust, and I was doing all the front live stuff, backstage, everything else, and supplying the newspapers with all the the pictures from backstage and everything. And also we had to deal with Hello and on OK, I think it was OK magazine. So at the end of the week of concerts, like one night was, I think that was, I can't remember which year it was, but anyway, like one night would be Madness and Coldplay and blah blah blah, and every night was a big band, an artist. But what the charity used to do was they bring in some of the teenagers who we were raising money for each day from a different hospital. So each day, Yamaha Instruments would have a room at the Albert Hall downstairs with instruments in it, drums, guitar, all different things. And they would have a couple of professional musicians down there showing the kids who are patients, who were, most of them were, some of them were terminally ill. You knew that they were, and I got to know them, and they were, some of them didn't make it. So earlier in the day, about midday, Kelly Jones from Stereophonics, Liam, me, and I think Paul Weller, I should dig out the photographs of the earlier in the day, I've got them somewhere. We went down to the Yamaha room to do some pictures with these kids and these artists. So when we went downstairs, I took some shots and went back upstairs. Now, that is moving on to the end of the day. That's about 11 o'clock at night after the gig. So on the left is Dr. Adrian Whiteson, MBE, and on the right is his wife, Myrna Whiteson, CBE. I think it was all the other way. Lovely, lovely people. And they started the charity, Teenage Cancer Trust. And he's a Harley Street doctor, and they're just lovely people. And Adrian said to me, Danny, do you think we can get a shot with Myrna and myself with Liam? I said, yeah, it'd be good to get that in OK. That'd be, magazine, that'd be great. So I said, let's go and ask Liam. So I asked Liam, and he said, as usual, he was now out of his head. He's now rocking around a bit. And he said, yeah, fuck it. Go on then. So I said, okay. So we walked over, we're in the hall, the backstage hall there at the Albert Hall. And as I went to take the photograph, he's walked towards me. And I did mention this to you earlier, and obviously I said, he walked towards me and he put my daughter, who may well be online watching this, she was there, right? And she said, he walked towards me and he's put his finger on my nose, which is, where I come from, that's punishable by death or close to. So he's put his finger on my nose and he said, his word is his quote verbatim. He said, "You're a fucking slag." So I said, "Am I?" I said, "Am I?"
Excuse the French.
So I said, "Am I?" I said, "Take your finger off my nose before I break it and shove it up your ass. Move away." And he looked at me and he said, "You're a..." So I said to him, "Why am I a fucking slag then?" And he said, "Because you asked me to fucking smile." And he went, "Rock stars don't smile." No, rock stars don't fucking smile. So I went, right, okay, now move away before. And my daughter's now grabbed my cameras because she thinks Dad's going to smack him with them or they're going to get dropped. So she's to my right with security, security didn't want to stop it. They didn't like it, Liam. They knew me and they just, anyway, so he's moved back. And when he moved back, I took the photograph and he did that stupid thing, put his hands around his throat and he went, yeah. as if, and he went, that spoiled it, didn't it? And there's another shot, which I don't know if you've got on there.
Yeah, I think I have. I think it's this one, isn't it?
Right. And then he's looked at me and pointed at me, which I took the shot, obviously, because it's there. And he went to me, see, that fucked it, didn't it? So I said, yeah, whatever, Liam. Right. And that's the one that we used in OK Magazine. Nobody could hear or see anything sinister in that picture. Adrian Whiteson and Myrna are looking at me and Liam's looking at me. And I thought, God, he is lucky, because and I don't mean to sound like a thug. My wife will be telling me that I am a thug and I sound like one. But when he had his finger on my nose, I was going to let him have 10 whopping great punches before he hit the floor. and he was so close to it. But the weirdest thing of all is that we then moved on from there, and a few months later I got the nod from them, we're going to Japan, are you coming with us? So I went to Japan with them, and he'd forgotten all about this.
Yeah.
You know, I thought I was going to, and when we were in Japan, we were as good as gold, and I did a portrait shoot of him, which have you got it?
Yeah, I think I've got that. Is it the black and white one?
Yeah.
This one?
That one, yeah. We did that in Japan. And, like just after, and he had no recollection at all that we'd slightly fallen out. I mean, he was out of his head at the Albert Hall. But, we got on really well. When we were in Japan, it was lovely. And
Is this a portrait you've actually lit yourself? Or is it just you found a nice pocket of light and shot it?
No, do you know what? Let me just tell you. It was unbelievably tricky. Like with all things, you have to move quickly. And I had windows of opportunity with the band. I was with Oasis. They weren't getting on too well. Liam and Noel were having their moments. I mean, we on this particular day, we met in a hotel in where were we? Roppongi. I can't remember where it was in Tokyo. And we were in the hotel, and the reception was on the top 40th floor. So I'm in the reception upstairs. I was actually staying somewhere else that day. I've met them over there. I was with my mate Sean, who lives in Tokyo, and he's a translator. And Sean assists when I go out there. He's lovely. He's from Coventry, funny enough, but lives out there. And so what I did was prior to meeting with the band, which we were going to meet at sort of like 11 a.m. or something, or something, and we were going to have an hour and a half to do some shots. And as I got there, we were told we got 10 minutes.
Yeah, as usual, yeah.
About 10 minutes. And I had about 12 shots lined up to do. But what I had done is I'd gone with Sean. I ran around the hotel down the street, and I've gone, right, we'll do one there, bang, bang. So with that shot, I did that in the lobby, or Robbie, as I like to call it in Japan. I did it in the lobby, and that was lit, believe it or not, with my Nikon speedlight pointing backwards on a bit of ceiling there was a little bit here, and it bounced off that. And I did a quick test shot before with Sean. So that is a speedlight facing backwards and coming back down onto him. And it was ridiculous how many shots we got that in that 15 minutes. Well, we had 15 minutes. We probably got 10, but I strung it to 15. But we had to run, and they were running with me because their record label, Sony, I think it was, had booked them in for extra radio shows and TV, which they didn't know about before the sound check because we were off to a gig. So, and I'd slotted myself in for a load of portraity sort of shots then. So that was pretty much, in the foyer. But again, I picked a very bland white background because that's what I wanted. And knowing where you're going to shoot first, if you've got a moment to sort of quickly go, right, where am I going to shoot that? Backgrounds are so important.
The biggest, I think one of the biggest things you've got here, or not a lot of trouble that you've handled it well, is the reflection from that's going to appear in the glasses, isn't it?
Well, that is, I didn't touch it, that light, that's it. And that's, to me, was spot on. I didn't know he was going to wear the glasses, and I didn't want him to take them off because I thought they looked so good. They look like they're my mum's. I thought, but
I'm sure whoever styles him will be happy about that.
You know what? Let me tell you, we were going down in the elevator from the 40th floor, and we're in the lift. And I've said this before, so if anyone's heard it, I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry to bore you. But we were going down. We got into the elevator, so I've got Liam in front of me, but he's facing a mirror in the elevator. Who's behind him? Let me think. Noel's behind him. Then Gem Archer and Andy Bell, and there's me, and there's somebody from the management was like milling about there. And we're going down, and as we're going down, Liam's in the mirror, and he's looking in the mirror, and he's wearing a jacket which you can't see in that photo, but others you can. And it's all like a bit of a buttoned up sort of quite a rock and rolly jacket. And he's standing there and he's going like this. He's going, yeah, fuck it. I think I look like fucking Michael Jackson in this. And he's looking at himself in the mirror thinking, yeah, I look like Michael Jackson. And behind him, his brother was standing behind him, who's a little bit shorter than him, looking at me and just going, Liam couldn't see that. I mean, the tension was building up between them at that time. And so Liam's giving it all that, and Noel's just behind him going. Then
we've got a couple of questions coming in. Sorry to interrupt, Danny. A couple of questions. We've got quite a few questions actually, and it's funny because have you ever met any shy rock stars from Ian? Has just asked that question.
Yeah, loads. When you say shy, sorry, is that Ian that's asked that question?
Yeah, Ian. Yeah, Ian Keynes, I think it is.
Is it? I don't know. Hello, Ian. Loads. One who springs to mind was somebody that some of you may not be familiar with. His name's Kevin Ayres, and he was a bit of a genius. He was in a band in the in the 60s, very much in the psychedelic era. He worked a lot with and very friendly with Syd Barrett from Pink Floyd. He was one of the founders of Pink Floyd, and Kevin was one of those unbelievably influential, brilliant musicians. And I worked with Kevin towards the end of his career. He did an album which is called Unfair Ground, and it's a brilliant album. And he was so shy, so much so that I did a couple of shoots with him through the record label he was with at the time, who were lovely people. Mine, Alison and Bernard had a record label. He was signed to them, and I had to meet them in a place. We did some shots, and he was just so shy. And then he did a live gig a week or so later, and I went with him to that live gig, and it was in central London near Leicester Square in a theatre there. He didn't live in the UK anymore. He lived a lot of it in Mallorca and a lot in south of France and whatever. And he was so nervous going on stage. He was almost sick beforehand. And he went on stage and wanted any lights on him. He refused any lights. So he sat in the dark.
I did the whole gig in the dark.
Yeah, a gig in the dark. And he was a really close friend of John Altman, who I mentioned before. John was at that gig. But another one is a singer called Ray LaMontagne, who's unbelievably shy. Another one, Hammersmith Odeon, or the Apollo. No lights, too nervous. Too nervous. Another one, whilst we're on Ian, believe it or not, Leonard Cohen, who I photographed, who was mesmerising to photograph. And I had a chat with him before he went on stage. We were at Glastonbury, and he was going on stage at an event which, first of all, he was an incredibly enormous artist, Leonard Cohen, influential, sort of the world, he's such a fan base. But his accountant nicked all his money. He went to a monastery came out, his legal, or his accountancy firm stolen his money. So millions and millions and millions gone. So he had to start again almost. And he did that, and he went on the road. So he was playing Glastonbury. And I was chatting to him just before he went on stage. And he was really, really, really nervous after all these years of being, a bit of a god out there, because he was going onto a stage where he wasn't the only artist on that stage that day. And he thought he was going to get, like beer thrown at him, all sorts of things thrown. And he went on, and he was really, really, really nervous about everything. He was shaking and nervous, everything.
I'm just going to share this picture because it sort of fits with our conversation at the moment.
Yeah. Well, that's, it looks like a pretty boring shot to some people. I actually love it. If those who know Squeeze, who are one of my favourite bands, the British band Squeeze, on the right is Chris Difford, and on the left is Glenn Tilbrook. The two, pretty much, they're the songwriters in Squeeze, the two driving force behind it. Not saying that the other members are not amazingly brilliant, because they are. They're
hell of a band, Squeeze. They have a lot of talent in Squeeze, wasn't they?
So brilliant. Everyone who's been in it is bloody brilliant. And
yeah.
That was just before they were going on stage, and Chris and Glenn, they still get pretty nervous. And Glenn was standing there leaning, waiting. We were just in the dressing room, and they were waiting for the tour manager to come running up and go, right, let's go. So Glenn was kind of just leaning and waiting and sort of just thinking. And Glenn was sitting over there looking at his lyrics and sitting there just looking down. And to me, it's just one of those moments where nobody was walking around the dressing room having a beer or larking about or chatting. Well, come on, boys, let's go, like some bands. This was a real silent. You could feel it was palpable. The tension's the wrong word, but the nerves. And it's just one of those moments, when I do a book on Squeeze one day, that'd be one with the story about, what we were all doing just before that photo and what happened. But anyway, it's just,
yeah. We have another question from Carol Graham. Really enjoying the talk. I'm assuming you aren't limited to the first three songs like us standard music photographers. Any tips on how to get that killer shot when you are time constrained?
Well, this is funny. I do get tired, confined to the 3 songs occasionally now. I'm not bothered about it. More often than not, I get the whole show to do. But believe me, that drives me nuts, because after about an hour, I'm thinking, can I go home now? I've got a cocoa and a duvet waiting, and I want to go home and watch on TV, and chill out. A
bit like Status Quo, because I did understand towards the end of their careers that they just had tea.
Yeah, they did. They said,
I don't know how right that is.
Well, towards the end, yeah, because Rick was told, if you have another drink, you're going to drop dead, and he had another drink, dropped dead. So there's some truth in that from that doctor. You can get killer shots in the first 3 songs. Honestly, you really can. The unfair thing there, though, is that sometimes it's really strange. PR companies, lighting technicians, management don't understand sometimes that the photographers who are there to do the shooting need to get the killer shots to promote that band. And because I sometimes do the whole shows, I know that I've got things that the poor photographers who have been launched out haven't got, because the lighting all of a sudden changes to something really dramatic, or something's happening where the band are doing something special. And it's all right for me, but it's really unfair on the other guys who've been, first 3 songs and out. I don't understand the first 3 songs and out. I know it's there. I think it's a load of rubbish.
Does it mean that there's only photographers there for the first 3 songs? Some don't get the first 3, some don't get the second 3.
No.
So to speak, first 3, everybody's out.
Usually you get the first 3 songs, you're told first 3 songs, no flash, and out you go. It's become a bit of an industry standard. Nobody could tell you why. I mean, I do know why, as it happens, but nobody could. If you ask them why, they go, well, that's the way it is. All right, you very rarely need to use flash. Very rare. There are a couple of photographers who are in who are in the rounds that when we're in photo pits will turn up and shoot with flash. They shall remain nameless, but they're shooting specifically for a couple of newspapers, and they think that the newspapers specifically like pictures of them with a flash in their face, and they look awful, the pictures.
Why would the band spend thousands of pounds with lighting technicians and riggers and all this to create a set for somebody to wipe it out with a 4 AA batteries and a flash gun?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, the lighting today is usually pretty fantastic, but the first 3 songs bit is pretty bloody stupid. But it is unfair, because there are things. I mean, I shoot lots of things. Well, I'll tell you a situation. I was shooting one of the bands I work with who are absolutely fantastic. They're not well known. Yeah, they're called Stax Band, and they're bloody brilliant, and they're made up of the most phenomenal musicians. Like a couple of members are in Simply Red, one's in Gorillaz, one's in this, one's in that, and they have great front people come and join them. And a great friend of mine, who's one of the world's, he's probably the legendary soul man himself, Sam Moore, who was in Sam and Dave in the 60s with songs like Soul Man and Hold On I'm Coming. I don't know if you've
yeah.
Well, go on, sing one of those songs for us, please, will you? Sing Soul Man, David.
So I can't. I'm a drummer. I don't think they don't give me microphones.
All right, anyway.
I know what song it is, though.
Anyway,
yeah.
So we got, through my connections, we got Sam to come and join Sam on stage. We got Sam to come and join Stax Band at the Cornbury Music Festival, and I was, at Cornbury, I go where I want, do what I want. I pretty much know every bloody band that's playing there, and I've got a trip, and I'm backstage, and I'm with Stax Band, I'm with Sam Moore. So anyway, the Stax Band went on, and the first 3 songs, it's the Stax Band with their normal singers, who are phenomenal singers, but the special guest is coming on at song 7, Sam Moore. So, and I want Stax Band, who are friends of mine, and I'm working for them, and they pay me to do this, that, that. I want them to get as much press coverage as possible. I'm syndicating my pictures, and I know my pictures will get out there to all the papers, but it's really unfair to all those photographers, of which I knew probably 5 of the 25 photographers in the pit. I know sort of 4 or 5, 6 of them very well. And I'm not the type of guy who's going to go, oh, well, I've got exclusive here, because that is not how I work. That is not fair. I don't need to be like that, and I've never been like that. So I quickly okayed it with the powers that be, I said, look, I'm going to bring the photographers back in. They said, yeah, of course, if that's what you want, bring. I said, because we want those photographers shooting Sam Moore on stage with Stax Band. Sam wants the PR. He's come from Miami first class all the way to the UK for one gig with the Stax Band. And Stax Band, who are phenomenal. Sam's the main guest.
Yeah.
So I quickly phoned one of my mates who was one of the photographers who was in for the first 3 songs shooting Stax Band.
Get back here quick.
Well, he's back in the press tent with all the photographers. I said, get the girl who's controlling the press on the phone now, please. I got her on the phone. I said, gather all the photographers, please. You're coming back in at song 7 or whatever it was. She said, I said, back here quick. And I got them all in to that. And I'm not after a medal because I'm really not interested. It's important that, and all the photographers, most of them didn't know who did it. The 5 or 6 of them were fully aware that I'd got them back in. But that's nice. That's what you do. And we want, so there are, the lady who asked that question, if the management had half a clue, they would have the photographers in for anything special that's going on. Even if they said, you're going to do 3 songs, you're going to do songs 6, 7, 8, or 3, 4, 5, 6, or when there's something important going on. It's that's really what should be happening. But a lot of them don't think, and what they've got to understand is that they want us to get the good shots. So work with us the same way, without me boring the pants off everyone. I was asked by Robbie Williams management and Robbie Williams to turn up at Milton Keynes in 2005. He was in Germany. I was somewhere else. Can you come to Milton Keynes and shoot that? So I said, yep. So I arrived. I drove. It was a Friday evening and it was a massive gig. I've arrived at Milton Keynes after getting stuck in traffic. I got stuck in about 3 hours worth of traffic with screaming women hanging out of their cars on the way to Milton Keynes Bowl. And I got there, and I've got there with about 20 minutes to spare. I had a 400mm lens in case I was moved around, and all my gear. I've sort of slapped the whole lot from my car, like half a mile across the backstage, got in there. And then the PR people have walked up and gone, Danny, great, you're here, well done. So-and-so, so-and-so from the management said, where's Danny? I'm here, right? And they said, oh, here's your contract. I said, what? They said, here's your contract. I said, what contract? They said, oh, there's a little, So I said, what? I said, show me it. So they showed me it. Now, I was shooting it for Robbie Williams' management, but they wanted me to shoot it because they knew I was shooting it also for the Sun newspaper. They wanted it in the Sun, right? So the Sun specifically had a good relationship with Robbie. That's another long story. The Daily Mirror, because of the good relationship with the Sun, didn't have a good relationship with him. And that's a story for another day. I was right involved in that. So the Sun had a good relationship. So I've arrived, and I'm looking at this contract, I'm reading it, and on page 6, there's a paragraph which is a complete copyright grab. So I've looked at it and I said, whoa, I said, that's got to come out. And they went, nah, it's not. I said, well, if that doesn't come out, I'm not coming in. They said, yeah, please, you've got to come in. I said, okay, well, I'm not signing that. They said, you've got to, I said, I'm not signing it. And they said, well, look, if you don't sign it, you can't. I said, bye. And I took the contract, which I've still got, and I walked out. I said, I'm not doing it. I'm not signing the copyright grab. And I watched 4 other photographers signing it and went in. But I was there officially for him and the Sun. So I've gone. And I was so annoyed that they've sprung that copyright grab on me there and then. For many reasons, it's really bad news. Number one, nobody should be giving away their copyright. Number one. Number two, they're stupid because I don't mean to sound like an idiot, but I know how to take photographs. There's a lot of photographers out there who are a lot better than me, so don't get me wrong, I'm not giving it the big one at all, but I know how to take photographs. If you want photographers to photograph your band and they know what they're doing, don't piss them off. Have them in. Have them photograph your band and do the best thing possible for your artist, right?
It makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, the photographers that signed the contract and went in, with no real disrespect meant to them, they weren't particularly good guys. I know them, and they're pretty useless, right? They were Jobsworth who were going there for an agency. They didn't want to be there. They'd rather be down the pub. They're getting paid 60 quid for going at the time or wherever. They don't want to, they don't own the pictures anyway. They don't care. They've just gone in there, right? And they're not great photographers. So the artist is not going to get a good job. So I've gone. So I got outside and I phoned up my pals. I know over at the Sun, I know over at the Mirror. And I phoned up my pals at the Mirror, and I phoned them up on the 3 a.m. desk, who are the girls who run celebrity page there, and I phoned up and I said, first of all, I phoned the Sun, Adrian Smith, the picture editor. I said, Adrian, I've got good news and bad news. He said, what's that? I said, you're not getting any any pictures from the Robbie gig. He said, why not? I said, because I'm, that's the bad news. The good news is I'm going home early. He goes, oh, great. Said, why not? I said, because they wanted to sign a copyright grab. He said, oh, don't do it. I said, well, I'm not signing it. I'm going. And he said, well, sod 'em. Don't worry about it. So off I went. I phoned the Mirror. I spoke to Caroline and the girls and the 3 a.m. desk. Eva Simpson was up there. She's now the editor at another newspaper. Anyway, she's lovely. All these girls. I said, look, just so you know that greedy Robbie Williams has just, they said, what? I said, yes, greedy Robbie Williams has just tried to copyright grab all my pictures, blah, blah, blah. And I've refused to sign it and I've left. They said, sorry, where are you? I said, I'm at the Milton Keynes Bowl. Robbie Williams, greedy Robbie Williams. I kept saying it, right? They said, hang on.
It's going past my. I'm sorry. I do apologise for sirens.
You're in the. Yeah, that's it.
They're coming to shut us down again, mate.
So it's perfect. I've been talking too much rubbish. That's why. So they've. So I said again about 5 times. Greedy Robbie Williams, his management, has tried to grab the copyright of all my pictures, and I'm not having it. They said amazing. So I've given them the story. And they said, brilliant. I said, are you going to run that? He said, yeah. I said, if you run it, can you put a big black square in it saying that's where the photo was going to go? But when, and I've still got this now. I've got the cut. I've got all these, Daily Mirror sort of things out there. I've got them from that day. And it became a big thing. And I remember I was interviewed by a photographer stroke journalist who writes for photographers about this because I walked away. And I was, at the time, I was one of the first photographers who went, not signing it, I'm walking away. Because we should walk away. But my point is, first of all, you should never have to do that. Unless you're being paid loads of money and you want to give your copyright away, which in truth I've never done, but I've earned money, but I've never given it away. But I'll do a license, which is a different story.
Yeah.
I'll link, if someone wants to own the copyright, Sodom, give them a license to use it for what they want for a certain amount of time, which we've had the conversation about that before. If people need information on how to put a license together, I can run through that with anyone.
That was interesting. We spoke about that last time, didn't we?
Exactly. It's an important thing that people understand, not to do things for nothing. Do it, it's another thing for another night, but it's issuing a license is, don't give your copyright away. Don't give pictures to people without any parameters. Don't say, oh yeah, go on, you can use them. Use them on your website where you've done it, you've given them away. Say you can use it for that amount of time in that particular way on that website for that amount of time, free or for £10 a month or £100 a month or 50 grand, wherever it's going to be. They're the parameters, and people, they understand it's a commercial thing then. But with Robbie, anyway, so the Mirror ran that, and I got interviewed because I just walked away, and I became amongst about 4 photographers, I became the hero. When they said, mate, you can, and I thought, no, I'm not doing it. So,
let's. We've got a load of questions coming in. I just want to share this picture because it's fairly current for today, isn't it? Something you mentioned to me earlier.
Oh, did I mention that? Have I mentioned that to you? Well,
you mentioned this, but you mentioned Keith.
Oh, right. Well, there's pictures of Keith I've got as well. Yeah. Well, today, actually, you're right. I didn't realise until after we'd spoken, I think, or just before, that today, 42 years ago today, right now, I was on my first Pan Am flight to America. I'd never been to America before. So at this time of day, I was mid-air, crossing the Atlantic somewhere, and I was going out there to try and blag my way on tour with Bob Dylan as his official photographer, which I did. But I didn't know I was going to succeed at the time, but I was on my way to have a go. But I was very friendly with Keith Moon and The Who. I had an office in The Who's office in Wardour Street in Soho, London. And I that day I left Lynn, who popped in before a cup of coffee. I don't know if we were live then or not, but anyway, Lynn was my girlfriend at the time. Now she's lucky enough to be my wife. She's probably watching this. I'm gonna get a smack around the head. So anyway, so she is lucky, I think. Anyway, so that's really done it, isn't it? So I left the house.
Have you ever heard the term wound and salt and put that into a sentence?
I think she's probably got a stun gun somewhere in the house. But I left her house and I went to London. I went to the office, finished all the bits I was doing, and I went and had lunch with Keith Moon. I say lunch, we had some pasta at his apartment just off Park Lane. And then Keith and his driver, Big Dick, we called him because he was very tall and his name was Richard. Probably other reasons as well, but Keith couldn't drive. Keith couldn't drive, so Keith's driver and him dropped me at Victoria Station, which is where I had to get tickets, standby cheap seats to go to America. You couldn't buy them at Heathrow. You had to get them at Victoria Station. So Pan Am, BA, Laker Airlines, and TW. They're all desks were there. It is a long old story, which I think I've mentioned before. But anyway, so I managed to blag my way onto the Pan Am flight. Keith's gone home. He's gone back to his apartment in Curzon Place, just off Curzon Street, off Park Lane. And I've flown to America, and I've got off the flight the other end. You know, it would be about 2 a.m. in the morning now, probably, you know, our time. And my auntie, who I hadn't seen since I was a kid, picked me up. And I think it's my phone now. It's not the police this time. So, my auntie picked me up, who I hadn't seen since I was a kid, picked me up, and she put the radio in the car. She was driving out, and first thing I heard was rock star drummer Keith Moon was found dead in his London apartment. So Keith had dropped me there, gone back to his apartment, gone out. I knew he was going to a film premiere that night with Paul McCartney and Linda McCartney, who I also knew quite well at the time. And he'd gone back to the apartment afterwards and overdosed on prescription drugs, which, you know, I think, I don't know if I mentioned this to you, but didn't mention this to you, but I was out with their manager, Bill Kirbishley, a few months ago. We all met for the 40th anniversary of the film Quadrophenia. So I met with him. Wow. Pete Townsend, Sting, Leslie. We all met in a restaurant in London, and I'm talking to Bill Kirbishley, who still manages the Who, and he did then. He's one of the heaviest managers of any band. He was one of those, but you know, he was a bank rob. You know, he went to jail for bank robbery.
Looks like a human bulldog.
Yeah, he did. He came out of prison and managed to, you know, armed robbery. Then managed the Who. But Bill said to me, we were talking a few months ago, and I said, when Keith died, I said it was the prescription drugs, right? He said, yeah. I said, how many did he take? Was it because he took a few of them? He said, he didn't take a few. He took fucking 26. I went, oh, God. I didn't know till a few months ago, 26 of these prescription. But he wasn't found until late afternoon when Annette, his girlfriend, who I'm still in touch with, who's lovely, Annette Walter-Lax, she's a Swedish model. She lives in Sweden now, but she was living with him in London. She sadly got out of bed. They'd had a row, and he was asleep on the couch. And she's got up and wandered over to the couch, and he was gone on the couch. And that was late afternoon. Oh. And they hung on and didn't mention it to anyone until late in the day. By then, I've arrived in America, and I got the, you know, then I heard it on the radio. But this picture is, weirdly, I've got pictures of Keith if you want to be bored with pictures of Keith and whatever. But that picture there of Pete and Roger, weirdly, is the first photograph of those two together for 15 years. I took that in about 2006. They hadn't spoken. They'd been on stage together, but they were they'd fallen out so much they would not speak. And I was in the dressing room 5 minutes before that picture. And I said to Bill, their manager, I said, should we get a picture of Pete and Roger tonight? They were playing at the Albert Hall, a Who gig. And he said, good fucking luck. I said, all right. So Pete was in one dressing room at the front, you know, near the stage. And Roger had a big dressing room just down the ramp at the back. So I've gone down to Roger's dressing room, and I did some pictures in the dressing room. I said, no, so we're just doing some pictures, having a chat. And Roger's telling me how he's quite a bit older than me, but he's telling me how much slimmer he is and fitter he is than me. And I'm going, all right, thank you. He's pulled up his shirt and showed me how his six pack and said, look at that. I said, fantastic. All right, mate, whatever. And he said, look at that. I said, well, how'd you do that? He said, 1 meal a day. I said, well, look at that. That's 3. Right. And Jaffa cakes. And, you know, we were having a bit of a laugh. And then I said, Pete has asked if you would do a quick picture before we went on stage. He said, nah, fuck him. So I said, he just asked nicely. He said, afterwards, let's do a quick picture. He said, did he ask? I said, yeah. He said, all right, we'll do a real, you have to be quick. I said, all right, okay. I said, all right, I'm going now. I'll see you up there when you come up there. And I've gone up there and I've run into Pete's dressing room and I've gone, all right, Pete, I'm chatting to him for a minute. And I didn't want to be in his face because when bands and artists are going on stage, some of them don't care. Some like to, you know, be concentrating on what they're doing and going, you know, I don't want to be, at those times, you don't want to be in anyone's face, but I had to quickly get in there. So I've just gone in and said, hi, Pete, how you doing, blah, blah, blah. I said, Roger has just asked if we can do a picture of you two together before you go on stage. He went, he wouldn't have asked that. I said, he's just said, have a word with Pete. So he said, well, if he wants to, all right then. And so I've gone, okay, well, before you come out, I had to get Pete from his dressing room and go back to where I wanted to do the shot before he went back that way and on stage. So I've got a red Hessian thing in the hallway, in the Albert Hall, and I've quickly turned it sideways. I've told security to keep everyone out that way and everyone out that way. And I've told Bill Kirbishley what I've done. And Roger's come up and Pete's come over and I've put them together. And that was the shot. And I've gone bang, bang, bang. And then they've walked away from each other, gone on stage like they're best mates on stage, but they were not talking. And Bill Kirbishley said to me, how the fuck do you do that then? I went, did it? You know, but that was a bit of a, you know, they say it's about 15 years. Apparently, Bill said they hadn't spoken or anything. They wouldn't go near each other. But there you go.
It's quite a good bit of matchmaking almost, isn't it? That's quite
But
cool.
you know what? It's easy to do. Anyone out there? I did that with. I was with the very right-wing guitarist, Trump supporting guitarist Ted Nugent in 1980. I was doing a tour of the southern states with Ted Nugent, who's a bit lively. Ted is everywhere. He had guns on him everywhere, and we're in bedrooms on tour. And he's going, "Hey, Danny, look at this." And he's pointing his live guns at me and everything. And I told Melody Maker, I said, because he was coming to England, I said, if Ted Nugent would do something special, would you run it as a front cover? And Melody Maker got back to me next day, said, if you can get something really cracking, yeah, we'll run a cover. And I said to Ted, if we can do something mad with your guns, I reckon I can get it on the cover. And he said, what do you want to do? So I just teed him up, and I did a shot of Ted in his loincloth, nothing else, on standing there going, like, looking mad with 2 loaded Colt 45s. And that was on the cover of Melody Maker, which was a big old tabloid. But, playing one off against the other a little bit there. But
I mean, this is a cool picture, but I'm just going to go through a couple of these questions, Danny, because we're obviously over our hour, but I know we will do, but who cares tonight? And Nick Franklin has asked something we mentioned on earlier about, and it's addressed to both of us, about how we separate or keep something separate and keep your passion for photography. What are our separate passions away, or presumably away from photography, or with photography? What do you do? I mean, I know you do fine artwork, don't you, that you don't actually tell anybody about? Well, until I just did.
Sorry, say that again. I do what?
You do some. You were saying that you do fine art photography that nobody knows you for, so to speak. I mean, that's one of your outlets, isn't it?
Yeah, I sound like a bit of a pretentious bugger calling it that. I mean,
well, fine art is a funny word to use in a lot of. I mean,
yeah, I
what you want.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, basically, the reason I photograph what we were talking about before is because my passion has always been photography, not photographing musicians.
Not so subject matter, it's for photography itself.
Yeah, photography is, my love is for photography. And, you know, I've got no hobbies other than, photography is my hobby. To be truthful, other than my hobby, it's my family. That's it. I've got 2 grandchildren and 1 little one on the way, you know, as well. And my children and my family, that's my life.
Is one called Freddie by any chance?
It is.
We've got another little question here. Freddie wants to tell Papa he loves him and asks, how many photos do you think you have taken?
Of him? How many have I taken?
I don't know if it's meant in him or just in general.
Well, in general, I use which is a story for another day. I keep my photographs. If anyone wants any information on this, it's worth. If you don't know, I'm happy to share this information. But I keep my photographs on a Synology rack, sort of like basically. I've got over 5 million photographs digitally, and I keep them all on a RAID array, a Synology RAID array. So basically, if you know, they're on there, they're backed up in the cloud as well, and I keep them on 2 Synology systems, one, you know, separate. So, you know, if ever, I mean, I know photographers who are really well-known photographers who keep on hard drives all over the place and different drives and CDs, and that's absolutely don't do it. So anyway, Freddie, it's lovely to hear the question. Just over 5 million, of which loads of them review. Your sister.
Another anonymous attendee, a bit of a clue in the question here. Olivia asks, any tips on becoming a pro photographer? Now, I don't know why you've mentioned your name when you've come in as anonymous attendee. That's quite amusing.
And who is that, Olivia?
Yeah.
I've got loads of tips on becoming a pro photographer. But it's probably too much to go now. But it depends entirely on what you want to do, how you want to do it, and how you want to go about it. Because to be a pro photographer, the first thing you've got to understand is the obvious thing is you've got to know how to take some level of photography. You've got to be but psychologically, you've got to have your head in the right place. Psychologically, to know how to get on with everybody and everything, whatever field you go into, unless you're photographing still life or landscapes, then the hills are not going to talk to you, so you don't worry about that. But any human interaction, psychology is something that I would thoroughly recommend. I didn't study psychology, but I learned very quickly how you need to get on with people, how you need to understand when you need to be a fly on the wall, how you need to listen to everything that's going on and not necessarily open your mouth, but go with the flow and understand things. Going with the flow is very important, not to question things. I've had many situations where I've had to not say a word, hear something's going on, we're all going there, and I just go with them. Get into my car, everyone jumps in, we go there, we turn up, we do, and I've not asked a question. I've just got there, I've got my cameras, and I'm going to document it. I'm with a load of people, or we jump on a tour bus, and I don't question it. So going with the flow. But to becoming a professional photographer, there's lots of things. I'm probably going to be doing, believe it or not, I'm probably going to do some of my own kind of webinars, which I'm happy to do with the Guild as well. But I'm going to do some on my own website, and I might put them on there and put some dates on there, where I'm going to be talking about making money out of photography, because a lot of photographers are great at what they do, but don't quite know how to make money out of it. And that's really key.
An interesting point with another question here from Steve Collins. Are there any image rights issues from talent when you sell prints of your work? Do talent ever need to clear images you sell? That was interesting that you mentioned that before with the copyright come license. So,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
we've sort of semi-answered that question, but I think that could be a whole webinar on itself, couldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in a nutshell, Steve, is it the last question?
Yeah, Steve.
In a nutshell, no, nobody has any rights to stop me. I sell my prints. Some people are stupid enough. I've had the odd stupid artist who said, "Oh, you're selling pictures of me." I go, "Yeah, and well, actual fact. Hang on, I had a bit of a row with Roger Daltrey, of all people, from the Who. I was walking out of the Albert Hall with Roger one evening. We were doing something there, and as we were walking out, he said to me, and obviously this has been recorded and this is true, right? He said to me, as we were walking up the steps and getting out there, he said, "What do you do with all the pictures that you just take, for the charity?" I said, "What do you mean I'll do? I'll syndicate them, get them in the newspapers, get them into the magazines, get them out." He said, "Do the charity own the pictures?" I said, "No." He said, "Why not?" I said, "Because I own them." He said, "You should give them to the charity." I said, "Why?" He said, "Because, they should be." I said, "Oh, whoa. Just stop a second." I said, "I take the photographs and I get them into the papers and I get them publicity. Why should I give away my copyright to the charity for doing that?" He said, "Yeah, but I said, "Well, hold on a second, just a second, right? You're playing here in 2 weeks, the Who. Right? Are you happy to give away your rights to Quadrophenia to the charity or Tommy?" He said, "No." I said, "Right. So you're all right to hold the rights to all your music and everything you do, but you think as an artist, which I am, as a photographer, I should give away mine to the charity." He said, "Well, it's different." I said, "Why? Why is it different?"
Yeah, it isn't different at all, is it? Music, creative, visual stuff, it's all the same.
Definitely not the case. So as far as selling my pictures go, of an artist, no, I own the rights. I will sell them. It's the same way if I sell my pictures on my website. To be honest with you, some of my pictures are quite a lot of money, some of them. We generally speaking, my pictures, if you go onto my website, dannyclifford.com, and there's a gallery on there, generally speaking, an A2 picture of an artist on there, an A2 is going to be around about 500 quid, which is not the end of the world. And they are a limited edition, but they're not a small edition. We do big editions because they're not expensive. And so there's going to be a limited edition of, don't laugh now, but they're 500, which is permissible. And that's the way it goes. So they're 500 quid. Friends of mine who are music photographers will do only 100 and they'll charge 3 grand for it. So I'm thinking, right, I'm doing mine for 500 quid and there's 500. Fine, let's do that. But I do sell some of my pictures for a lot more money. And I have had the odd snipe from an artist where we've sold a picture. I mean, some of them they're on my site, so I can say anyway, but we do some what we call resins, and we've got some Freddie Mercury stuff on there, Bob Dylan, we've got Rolling Stones or whatever, and they're around about £20,000 each. They're not an edition of 500, they're an edition of 20, and as they sell, they're going to go up in price as well. So we're increasing the amount of pictures that we're turning into resins as well. But to answer your question, no. If nobody can stop us, and if they tried, good luck. We've got a great legal team, and they can sit on their fingers and spin because we're not allowing that to happen. So as photographers, no, we've got every right to sell what we're doing. you know, unless I'd signed an agreement when I'm photographing it, specifically making, you know, agreeing that I wouldn't do that, which I've never done, then fine. You know, then you know, you can do what you like with them. So, you know, simple as that.
Question from Rob Dalton: of all the hundreds of rock singers you've photographed, which one would you consider was the best sounding live?
The best what live?
Sorry, the best sounding singer live.
Blimey. God, from a vocal point of view.
Yeah, I presume so.
God, well, look, as from a vocal, there's been loads, but as a vocalist goes, probably Mick Hucknall is probably one of the best vocalists out there. He just sounds the same as he does. You know, he's mentally brilliant. As far as bands sounding as they do on a record, Pink Floyd are about as good as it gets. So's Paul McCartney. I mean, just phenomenal live, sounding, you know, the band, it sounds like, if you close your eyes when he's doing Beatles songs, it sounds like you're watching, you know, listening to the Beatles. Yeah. But as far as voices go and things like, I mean, Amy Winehouse was pretty phenomenal.
Well, we've got a picture of Amy. I mean, I've got this picture lined up here, but we've got this picture here of Amy. I'll just share it with everyone.
Which one's, that's...
Can you see that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a funny, one of my first times with Amy. That was a sort of studio setup we did. And what, it's actually quite funny at that moment, is I had a couple of people there that I was photographing. I had Katie Mellower, who's lovely, and Amy together. And I had them both standing with me. And I said to Katie, who's very sweet, so, you know, standing in front of me, I said, Katie, Amy, whilst you're both here, should we do a quick picture of you two together? And Katie said, yeah, great. And Amy just immediately went, nope, I'm not doing my picture with her. She's shit and doesn't even write her own songs. And I went, whoa. I said, and I looked at Katie Mellower and I went, and Katie just looked at me and went, oh. I said to Amy, I'll take that as a no then. And I separated them quickly, and I did the studio shoot with Katie, then I did it with Amy. It makes Amy sound horrible to do that, but she was lovely. She wasn't horrible, she was lovely, but she was quite frank and blunt. Bloody hell.
I suppose there's nothing wrong with speaking your mind that badly, is there? I mean, yeah, we've had another message here, but I think from Andy Sweeney, saying it must have been a great feeling, and what did it feel like to actually photograph Freddie Mercury? Well, I think we spoke about this last time, really. So, Andy, if you want to have a listen to what it was like with Freddie Mercury, we can pop back and you'll find the previous interview on my YouTube channel, I think, or even, is it on your YouTube channel, Danny, as well? So
mine as well, yeah.
You'll be able to look at that one again.
Yeah, but just to answer it quickly, it was brilliant. Great fun, phenomenal. He's a legend, amazing. But,
yeah, I think, was it I read something today, yesterday, 27 years, was it yesterday or something since he died? Something like that. That's right. We've had another question here, and I know you might want to answer this. Who do you print with? Well, I know we're all big fans of Epsom, aren't we?
Yeah, I only use Epsom printers and Epsom ink and Epsom paper. I mean, there's, you know what they say? I mean, the quality of the prints, even on our £20,000 prints, it has to be good.
Well, and, yeah, especially at that sort of level of print, yeah, and
also we're selling, you know, we're selling prints every week. We've got prints going out. We've just sold another Dave Gilmour and something else, and the quality of the print has got to be as good as it gets. And the truth is, that old adage, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. It's as good as it gets. Epsom, the printers that we use and the paper that we use and the Epsom inks, honestly, it ain't any better than anywhere else. And that's why. So, you know, we and all the people that buy our photos, everybody's delighted and thrilled. So I have used other stuff, trialing it in the past, other papers, other inks. It's just
your pictures, with them being so colourful, will suit a particular style of paper, won't they? You know,
yeah, but absolutely. But they're you know, they've got quite a few different range of papers in Epsom. Anyway, you don't need hundreds and hundreds of different types of paper. You're only going to confuse yourself, you know. But some of the papers, I mean, there's a particular paper I specifically love. But there's a few there. They're just, but the colours, whether it's the fine arts, whether it's stuff of my, you know, like I've got an Instagram account, and I put a picture yesterday in my back garden. We've got horses at the back here. in the back garden, and I did a sort of, it was a bit sunsetty, and the family were all over at a distance in the garden. We had a distance gathering here, and I did a shot of the horses there, which is on Instagram, and that, as I printed it today, it just looks beautiful. With you know, as it looks on the screen, it prints exactly the same on the Epson print as well, and that is what you want. I mean, that's it. It's
like my stuff doesn't suit gloss paper. I'm not a gloss. It's not glossy at all. I mean, colour and gloss go together well, but mine has to be the paper. It's very, very important to the print. You know, people should never underestimate just how important the paper quality is.
Absolutely, but the thing is, I rarely print on gloss anyway, because to be honest, most things are framed, and if you put a gloss picture behind glass, it looks awful. So it's not a good thing to frame glossy pictures anyway. But listen, Epson's, you know, I've the three things I stand by. I'm a Nikon photographer. Other cameras are brilliant. I've never had a problem with Nikon. To me, I've just quality-wise, bloody brilliant. Hasselblads for the medium format stuff, and Sinar for 5x4 and bigger, if I'd ever go that way, and Epson printers. I've pretty much always used Epson printing, but you know, that doesn't make you a good photographer. It's getting out there, and also you've got to make money, which I will do that. I think I'm going to do some sort of webinars on how to help people get out there and earn money, not as a music photographer necessarily, but as a photographer. There's so many things you can do to make money, which is, people don't realize there's so many things to get out there as a photographer and get you on the ladder and earning money, and instead of buying cameras and thinking, well, I've just spent a lot of money on this equipment, because get you some money back in and earn some money and then go forward. You know, it's not that difficult, to be honest with you.
I think the questions are flying in. Have you ever, or do you ever face a moral dilemma releasing any images, e.g. someone breaking the law or flirting with somebody they shouldn't be? Do you ever face a moral dilemma releasing any images, e.g. someone breaking the law or flirting with somebody they shouldn't be with?
Well, yes. Yes, in a word. And I don't do anything with those pictures. So I've got plenty of pictures of people who are in, I would say, compromising situations, or situations they don't want to be seen. Yeah, and I never have been one of those photographers that puts them out there and gets out there. So they're in the archive and they sit there. You know.
I've taken pictures like that, and even the Prest tried to get hold of one I took several years ago, and I just wouldn't release it. It was too personal to the people. It wasn't anybody breaking the law. It was just a very personal moment in somebody's life. And I got the shot and the Prest didn't, and they were doing the damnedest to try and get it off me. And I just said, no, you're not having it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
stuck by me guns, and I mean, I've still got it. I looked, you know, when you take a photograph and you edit it and you sit there and you're almost in tears. In fact, you are in tears looking at it, because you know you've captured something that is just so special. Well, in not a particularly nice way either. And you just think nobody needs to see that. I was just happened to be there, and it was a real moral dilemma as well, actually, to whether or not I pressed the shutter. I nearly didn't press it, and I did. No.
You've got to pull the trigger, mate. You've got to get it.
I did pull the trigger, but I thought...
No. You've got to get the shots, I mean, before I became a music photographer, I've mentioned this before, I actually thought about becoming a war photographer. And I was going to go off and go off to Cambodia when Pol Pot was killing people in the Khmer Rouge. And I know that I've got it in me to shoot. And I've done things where you keep photographing. I was a photographer for somebing called Eddie Kidd. Who was
I remember Eddie Kidd, the motorcycle guy, yeah.
Right. Well, I was in Bridlington, up your way, right?
Oh, that's just 13 miles up the road, right? Yeah.
This is a long, long time ago, and he was jumping 13 double-decker London buses.
I might have even been there, you know. I think I was probably there, yeah.
Well, he was jumping 13 double-decker buses to break a record, and I was photographing it, all manual, and I was up there. So I got up there, and he jumped the buses and clipped the last bus. He flew off his bike, and his bike came through sideways toward, and his dad, his uncles, everyone who were holding the tarpaulin to slow him down. But he had left the bike. He ended up in a ditch, and he was concussed, but wasn't. Subsequently, he's now in a wheelchair. And he
did hurt himself, didn't he? In the end,
yeah, he's now really badly injured. But he hadn't. So he's gone off and he's landed in a ditch. But his bike came flying towards us, and it went through his dad and his uncle and his other uncle's legs and snapped all of their legs in half. And I carried on taking pictures, every single bit of that. But, you know, I mean, without sounding morbid, you don't stop, you know, and I photographed a few things, and I photographed every single part of that. And, you know, from the moment it was happening through to just, I didn't stop. I must have gone through 5 rolls of film from then onwards, expecting to get 3 or 4 shots of him coming over with his bike, because it was all manual, click, 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 click. So all of a sudden, I was reloading and shooting everything, the ambulance crews, oxygen, you know, everyone was trying to, you know, because these guys were laying there with bones poking out. And I know. But what I mean is you keep shooting. You learn to keep shooting. So if you are doing things where you're talking about pictures where they're, you know, don't think, oh, I didn't want to take that because, no, get the shot. Decide later. Get the shot.
Don't worry about it later. Yeah,
get the shot.
You don't get a second chance, do you? No.
I've had loads. I had an A-lister, a triple A-lister model injecting drugs in between her fingers, backstage, hidden at a gig, and I didn't photograph that because that would have been me out the door and gone then, and wasn't in a situation where I could have got it. But these are the things that I have got similar shots of that same person with a crack pipe and other things like that, and I haven't released them. And I was offered a book deal with what are they called? Oh God, part of Hanneman. What are they called? Oh, anyway, big German publisher. Anyway, they offered me a book deal for this particular band and artist, and they wanted to go down the road of me bringing pictures in and stories about the people hanging around the band, which would have meant bringing in all these A-listers and putting them in. And I just Lynn and I went down for about 4 or 5 meetings with them in Canary Wharf in London. And it was about the 3rd or 4th meeting, they started to try and turn me into a bit of a kiss and tell. And I said, I don't want to do that. And they said, but, you know, there's going to be more money. And I said, and I walked away, just left. Because you don't, you know, there's no need for that.
We've had this actually fits, that story fits in with I think we'll probably make it the last question tonight. Have you built up a level of trust with the musicians? And has this helped with your progression? And I think that you probably just answered that question, to be fair.
Yeah, completely. I've always been, I think trust is important, you know, in anything you do in life, even if you're working on a building site or you're a laundrette, trust is important. Having a bit of moral integrity is important, whatever you do. So if you are, I know that in my life as a photographer, I've been a little bit way and a little bit woo, but in a nice way. I've never done the dirty on anybody. Nobody could ever say that. And I think I've got a moral compass and done things the right way. So yes, I've been invited back, and yes, I've got nothing to worry about. I haven't got to dodge people and think I can't go on that tour and I can't go and see that guy because I said this and said that. Never. So
it'll always come back and bite you, won't it?
It always does. I've watched people do it all my life, and I've seen other people do it. So that's not the way forward.
And I think a lot of that, to be honest, as well, is the world we live in. Everybody wants to sort of stab everybody in the back to a degree and make money off the back of everyone. And it's not a great society to live in like that.
No, they're the people who don't know how to make a living elsewhere. And that's true.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Well, they don't know how to make a living. And, you know, to be honest with you, I've done all right. It's, you know, and I haven't done it by stabbing anyone in the back at all. And in actual fact, all I want to do now at my ripe old age, and you know, and all I want to do is help other photographers to go and earn some bloody money and get on with it. I want to, you know, I want to share the love. I genuinely do. I'm not going to go back and not tell people. I want to get out there and tell people how you do it. You know,
I think your webinar idea is a really good. I think I'd be tuning in for that, you know, because I'm working not in the circles you work in, obviously, but you know, with being a sort of an artist, lens-based artist, whatever you want to class yourself as in the little bracket things, and finding the desk to land on, you know, it's a tough old call, and you know, obviously you've landed on all the right desks, so I think there was some very interesting information in there.
Yeah, but I know we're running out of time, but just to add, in my life as a photographer, I said before, my passion is photography, not necessarily photographing bands. I've just happened to have done an awful lot of photographing bands, but I also worked for advertising agencies in the West End of London, shooting big campaigns on 10x8 trannies, and you know, so I've done real stuff, if you like. I've worked in loads of other spheres. when I was, like young and skint, I was going photographing houses for sale for an estate agent in North London, and I'd get like £2 per house. And I'd make sure I got the house on the day when the clouds are, fluffy, and use the polarizing filter, move the dustbins out the way, made the house look lovely, to sell the dream of him selling the house.
Yeah.
Estate agents got their own cameras now. But my point is, I've done lots and lots and lots of different things. And whatever you do, you can make it pay. You can make it work. I've done work for in so many different areas, and it makes me laugh, because the real money for me was because I've spent most of my life in the music industry, and I can say that I'm lucky because I'm one of the old gits who have done it, and I've done a lot of heavyweight stuff. To a degree, I can name my price and tell them if they don't want it. I can, which I don't mean to sound condescending at all, but the fact is, it's all flannel. But because I've done that, I can charge. So I'm lucky there. But to photograph, other things, whether you're doing stuff for a local company that's got, who's doing a product, they've got their own products, and you want to get to earn money out of them, you've got to explain and sell yourself to them as a photographer. And photographically and technically, there's loads of little things you can do that they can't do. We know there's loads of things you can do to make their products look different and better. You don't tell them what you're doing, but I'll tell you how to do it, or not you, but others. Then you've got to help.
Why not me?
No, but I'm sure you do. But you've got to be able to sell the dream, and that's what you've got to sell the dream. So they want to use you instead of using their bloody iPhone and using a little camera they bought in Argos. And you've got to sell the dream of you being able to take photographs, so you can help them sell their dream of their product, their company, whatever they're doing. And also, there are plenty of people out there, plenty of companies who need to hire photographers for their clients. So there's lots of that going on. And all you got to do is know how to find them. I mean, I've done it all. I've done it all. I sound like a bloody idiot, but I know how to do that. Anyway.
You've walked the walk and you can talk the talk. You've done your own work, mate. You've done the ground, the board treading, haven't you?
I've waddled the walk. Waddled the walk.
Don't say that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I will do. I think I will do some. I'm going to put some webinars on my site, on the Danny Clifford site, and people, and talk about making money. That's what we want to do: make money, and go forward.
Well, follow our passion, don't we? We want to use our creative,
expensive hobby. We should make money.
To make a living, yeah.
Exactly. And I know we've been in chats before, haven't we, Danny, about getting you set up. So anybody watching, if you're interested, you can tune in to us. Pop us an email on info@photogirls.co.uk. You can have a look at our website, www.photogirl.co.uk. Have a look on there. We've got plenty of content, and hopefully we're going to be setting something up with Danny in the future. And it's just going to be fantastic because he is so awesome, which you've all experienced this evening. So thank you so much again for a brilliant evening, the pair of you. It's been really interesting to hear all about what you've been up to and all of the advice that you can give everybody. And it's been lovely to have you with us, everybody who's tuned in on Facebook and everybody who is with us on Zoom. It's been a real pleasure, but we will let you get back to your evening. As much as we don't want to say goodbye, we're going to have to.
I reckon we should do a whole day webinar one bit, Danny. I reckon we'd never stop.
I've got my ballet lesson starting in a minute, so I've got.
Oh well, we better let you go then, hadn't we?
Oh, which just reminded me the tutu's still in the tumble dryer at our end. I'll have to go and get it out.
A lovely colour, though, isn't it?
Well, it was until the red pants went in.
Oh my goodness! Right, this is the time to go now, guys. Thank you so much. Take care, everyone, and good night. It's been lovely.
I'll talk to you again. See you later, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.